Was acting something that you made a definite choice to do? Was it something you drifted into, or was it a passion from sort of age 5 or something like that? Is acting in your blood?
I decided when I was 4, actually.
Wow.
I played Little Miss Muffet rather brilliantly at my prep school, and I screamed and I ran out, and Judith Black was the spider, and all the audience, it was mums back then, very rarely dads in the audience, and I stood the other side of the door and I heard the clapping and the cheering and the laughing, and I thought, yep, this is me. That's me, I'm going to make people laugh, yeah.
Marvellous. What about you, Sophie?
I was about 4 or 5, and I decided to, I don't know, I always loved let's pretend and dressing up and stuff. I always had to be Prince Charming. There was a little velvet hat, the red hat that we had in our dressing up box, and a sort of, thinking about it now, I think it was probably Edwardian, little satin shirts, pink sort of satin shirt, and I had some shorts, and I had my hobby horse. I used to gallop around our climbing frame, and then that turned into basically getting as many of the local children as possible to be in my make-believe. And then that gradually turned into plays. And there was one play in particular where I think I was Cinderella. There's a hilarious picture of me sort of sweeping incredibly earnestly. All the other kids are just kind of going like this, but I'm really in character, sweeping up. And then there's another picture of us all by a wall that my mum's obviously taken, with me in the middle, starring, directing, bossing, really, and my brother as the cook, my younger brother, he always had to be the menial role, and then these much older kids who obviously I'd managed to get to do my plays, and I remember we used to do them in the garage, the empty garage in our house, and we charged 6 old P, which was quite a lot really, wasn't it, 6D, and we'd send the money to the Blue Peter Appeal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Great.
So that was it.
Wonderful.
Did you get a badge?
Well, not then, but yeah.
That's who you know, isn't it?
Yes. I've got many Blue Peters.
Somebody asked about the badges later. Katy?
I couldn't see very much as a child. In fact, I could hardly see anything. And they didn't realise. So I was a child that made lots of noises and sounds because that was my friend.
You need to press your button, don't you?
I've also, did you hear me? Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, it's to do with my eyes. Anyway, so I would be sitting in the bath making all sorts, making all these extraordinary noises and sounds and voices. And then at school, because I couldn't see, that I got into trouble because I couldn't play any of the ball sports, and they used to think I was doing it deliberately. I just didn't know which end the goal was or anything. I had no idea what was going on. I just sort of floundered around. And so the gym mistress took me out and she said, "You're going to play Alice in Wonderland." So I got to play Alice with my big thick glasses. And so that I didn't have to do gym or any of those ball sports. And everybody kind of knew that I was going to be an actor except for me. I thought I was going to be a dentist. And,
Oh my God, imagine you doing a
But I used to design like patterns on people's teeth so that you could have them bejeweled. And I'd jewel these amazing teeth. But everybody else, was quite convinced I was going to be an actor because I also did a very good job of being various dentists. And I used to sew people's kneecaps back on and things like that. I was a very strange child. But I did play Alice in Wonderland, and then I got to play Bashful in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And then it sort of went on from there, and then I did an audition years later, only as a bet. I was only about 13, and I'd sort of left school, and I was with my friend, and there was a sign up, and they said, auditions, and it was at the Shepherd's Bush Theatre, the little theatre, and then all these girls going, these pretty little girls, and there's me, really, with these Thora Hird glasses, right? tape behind my ears because they kept falling off my nose, and because they were so heavy and made of glass. And anyway, so I went in, and there were all these girls, and they had their ringlets and their little party frocks. I had a duffel coat and a band of bomb badge, and thick glasses, right? And I went in, and they said, "What are you going to do?" And my friend said, "Sing." I said, "I can't sing. It's about the only thing I can't. I can sing in funny voices." So I went out and I proceeded to take my glasses off and start to recite, and got right to the end. There's a famous seaside place called Blackpool that's noted for fresh air and fun. Well, I won't do the whole thing. Anyway, I did that in this very deep voice, because I had a very deep voice, and they said, "Thank you." And that was the end of that, until I actually did become an actress. But that was after a lot of other. It's a very long story going up the rest. I'm not going to tell it. But yes, eventually I did. But everybody always said, "We knew that's what you were going to do."
We didn't know you were going to be a dentist beforehand. That's the first. We've learned that
That's
today.
the worry.
Why is everybody so... I mean, teeth are fascinating. And
Yeah, but you can't see them.
I get really, really close. Actually, can you imagine how many people my head would be in their mouth? And they'd be... So, sorry, I've just got a terrible visual there. I'll be quiet now. Goodbye.
Jill, acting. How did you start?
Well, I'm nearly, I'm 86 years old now, so I'm a little bit groggy, but my mother put me into ballet quite young, and I had to listen to all of this in French, which was a little bit difficult for a 5-year-old. I love comedy, and I met Hugh Lloyd.
Oh, I worked with him, he's lovely.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy, and we got on very, very well, and I just fell into comedy, and I just love it. Just anything slightly mad, and I can fall over and do all kinds of things, and the whole of my life I've just enjoyed. It's been great, and thanks to Morecambe and Wise, and they're really, really wonderful.
Oh, I'm so jealous you worked with Morecambe and Wise.
Yeah, that was really great.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Were your family in theatre?
No, my mother put me into the Albert Hall as a fluffy chicken. And, with the feathers and everything. And she thought that I should be a performer. And it went from one thing to another, It's just, I love pantomime, but comedy is my thing. I mean, I as daft as you can get.
And yes, it was a straight role you played in the Peter Cushing movie, wasn't it? I think Bernard Cribbins did most of the comedy sequences in that, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Bernard Cribbins was fantastic.
Oh, he was so lovely.
Yeah.
Yes,
to work
yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, are there questions for our guests, please?
Hello, very good evening. My question is what advice would you give to someone who is starting out in the acting business or already doing it to be better?
So, Katy, the question is, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting out in acting, or how to improve?
Well, I think if you treat it in the right way,
Yes.
you really have to be not the stars in your head. You have
no,
to be
exactly.
Just try a little bit and a little bit and see how it goes. See how you feel. You see what the response is to your
It's
voice.
total dedication as well. And if you really want it, nothing will stop you doing it. Even if you're out of work for years, you still consider yourself to be an actor.
If you want to do it, forget it. If you have to do it, then
That's exactly right, yes.
Yeah.
You can't drift into it.
My advice would be prepared. Luck is opportunity meeting preparation. So I tell every student I've ever had to have at least 6 audition speeches under their belt, at least 3 songs, and to have it like it's in your DNA, so that anything that's thrown at you, can you do this in an Irish accent? Can you do it standing on your head? Can you, whatever. You're absolutely prepared to do it. But I was thinking this morning, you know, what would I tell my younger self? And I think it would be, it's all right to change your mind. There's a few jobs I should have gone, nah. I don't think this is for me, and I'm not being treated very well, and I should get out of here. No, I'm not going to. But so to give myself permission to know my own self-worth earlier than I did. But apart from that, I would tell any young person, just be prepared, get your head down, be prepared.
Yeah.
Your life is going on outside the stage door, you know, and you have to live that, but you have to be completely committed.
It's a tough business, and everyone...
That's right, and people say, oh, when you say you're an actor, they say, oh, television or film, and you go, no, anything that pays me, you know. I mean, it's called...
Or doesn't pay me.
Oh, it doesn't pay you. That's something else you learn along the way as well.
One big thing is to get used to rejection.
Yeah.
And not make it mean anything.
Not be depressed.
You know, you get rejected over and over and over and over again. And also, to be able to take criticism. I was doing a voiceover in my own project just the other day. And the director, I don't know, some directors know how to work with actors and some don't they? Yeah. And all I could hear was this woman, you know, dialing in from, I don't know where she was. And I did my first read, you know, Krispy Kremes, they're so crunchy, something like that. And she just said, oh, that sounds really like a commercial voiceover. No, we don't want that. No, that's really bad. Let's do, it's just a conversation. And it's like, if I'd not had the experience, I would have like gone, you know, this complete stranger.
You can't take it personally,
no, you can't.
And you know, and you really have to accept that, or you're too short, you're too tall, your nose is too big, you know, whatever it is. You know.
And you need to be able to take direction,
in my day,
however it comes at you.
Yes, however it comes at you. And if you've got a bad director, and it happens, you need to knock them into shape by saying, the question I have under my belt is, what effect do you want me to have on who with this line? And that makes them really hone in on a specific piece of direction. And I'm very happy to comply with that, as long as they've got a clear idea. But when you get notes like, oh, you did it better last time, can we be a bit more like that? And you think, well, what specific, you know, because we're working on instinct, we often don't have we're so in the moment, we don't even create a memory of what's gone on. It just happens instinctively. And you need more specific direction than that. But you said something really interesting this morning about living with Vince.
Yeah, and I think living with a Scouser who's constantly, you know, coming up with the gags, and you know, I've learnt to match him, and also to absolutely to go with the flow. My sons are like that as well, and I think somehow we kind of that's improved my and also doing conventions, you know, doing panels, but most of the time I'm not working, and you've got to learn what to do with that time as well. Are you going to... Most actors are out of work at any one time.
99% of actors are out of work for 99% of the time.
Yeah. So you've got to work out, you've got to be resourceful and work out what to do with your time where you're not working, haven't you?
We've got to be disciplined.
You have other interests, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
That are balancing in your mind, so that you don't take it out of proportion.
If you had a TARDIS and you could take yourself back to 1970s, Louise, what would you say to her about now, knowing the way you know about him now, but also dealing with that situation?
That's such an interesting question. That really is. It's no secret that Tom and I, there's friction, you know. We're very good mates now, we work together on audio all the time. I think I probably would have just said to myself, it's going to be all right. You're going to be all right. Because there was some stuff going on personally, as well as, you know, it looked to the public like my life was just flying. But, you know, my 20s were a pretty intense and complicated time. And I was very anxious for a lot of that time. And it would be wonderful to go back there with this head. And the amount of work that, you know, I've done my therapy, I've done my yoga, I haven't I don't drink, I don't, do drugs, I don't. So I, really worked on myself, cleaned myself up, but back in the day it was a bit more complicated than that. But I have to say, it sounds cliche and a bit slushy, but the Doctor Who fandom has been an absolute complete mainstay through almost my whole career, and I am incredibly grateful for that, because it's always been there, like a kind of safety net for me. So,
yeah,
thank you.
Right. Yeah.
We have a question down here, Adam.
You all look absolutely fabulous, and the things that you choose to wear and the way you choose to present yourself is lovely, absolutely lovely. What I wanted to know is what effect has your clothing / costumes had on you as a person for your own growth? What things have you chosen to say, yes, I'll don that costume, or no, I need something different?
Yeah. I thought you chose a lot of your own clothes.
Everybody did.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
No, there was.
Louise, did you?
I chose the flap on the back of the leather here. It came without that originally, and I didn't, I never saw it in my naivety. I never saw it as a sexist outfit. I thought she lives in the jungle. Of course, she'd wear leathers. It was very hot. She wouldn't wear much, and it wasn't until the reaction afterwards, mainly in the press, that I thought, oh, have I done the right thing? But we didn't really have a say,
No, and also for me, I was wearing the fashion, mini skirts were in, but I would never have thought I was going to be climbing a mountain, or jumping on a motorbike in a mini skirt with matching knickers and 2 pairs of eyelashes that stuck together in the wind. This is not what I would have said, oh, that's what everybody who's going on a journey like this is going to wear. But when you're playing a character, I don't think about clothes or how I look or anything, because you are being that person. It's not like, oh, I wouldn't wear this. Well, it's not you. Yeah. It's that sort of thing. But the eyelashes were.
Do the costumes help you get into character?
They can do, especially if you're doing something, if you're doing restoration or something. Yes, they certainly do, because of the way that you have to work in those things. But, that's something you learn through your career, and you learn also, you have to learn how to achieve it. You have to be able to do your makeup, you have to be able to do your hair, and whatever era you're going to do. Sometimes when you get a certain pair of shoes on, or you get, but with Jo, it wasn't, I don't think that really came into being. I mean, I just did what I was told to do, and didn't think about it once it was on me. That was it, I was off and running, because that's what I assumed she would have worn. I mean, it was the wardrobe people's decisions, and the producers to decide, and they wanted me to be a girl of that time, So, but I did wear all my own rings. Those were mine.
I had the luck to get the Walt Disney part in Dr. Sin, and it was the most wonderful thing, the teaching. I tested with 58 different girls, and I had never a clue that I had got it until the guy said, well, you got it, I said, how do you know? And we drove home, and then, of course, there was all the costumes being made in London. It was the most amazing experience. And Walt Disney was one tough, marvellous person. Yeah.
You actually met the man himself?
Oh, yes.
So were you wined and dined by him, or was he just on set?
No, he was just there, and he heard every test. The discipline that Walt Disney has is fantastic. Every tiny detail is so amazing. And I was very lucky to have gone through that. It was a huge education.
I first started watching Doctor Who in '67, so Patrick Troughton was the Doctor. He often commented about being typecast. So your part in Doctor Who, be it the film or the TV series, as an actress, did it hinder or help your development beyond your role into the profession?
I've been asked that question, and I have to be honest with you. When I came out of, because Doctor Who was like my second job as an actress, and so I was doing another series prior to that where I'd had a tiny part, and they took me out and gave me the Juve lead in it. And then I went into Doctor Who, and when I came out, Douglas Canfield, who was one of the best Doctor Who directors, really, I mean, not just Doctor Who, just the most wonderful man, wonderful director. And he cast me as a junkie in Target. And then as a first court case when a marriage broke up because the husband found out that the wife was having an affair. And I was also doing an arts and crafts program during the day, teaching people how to work in epoxy resins and tie-dye and weave and things like that. And then I was flying up to Edinburgh at night later on, playing a 16-year-old mass murderer's Girl Guide. No, I don't think it did straight away. Maybe years later.
In a way, it couldn't typecast because, you know, how many warriors of the 1700s? So, in actual fact, I think it gave me a huge leg up. It really did. I've done a lot of classical work. I'd been 3 years with the Royal Shakespeare Company before Doctor Who, so I'd done all in theatre. I'd got my leg up, and then so we deliberately held out for a TV series, me and my agent, and I got down to the last 10 for Purdy. Oh. But you know, who wants Joanna Lumley's career? And I nearly got Angels, and I nearly got Survivors, and it's thanks to not getting Survivors that I did get Doctor Who, because the interview with Pennant Roberts, he remembered, and I didn't get the role. However, he called me in for Leela in Doctor Who, so you never know. Every meeting you have, even if you don't get that one, it can lead to something else.
I think I wouldn't have been minded to be typecast as an ace-type character, because in those days there weren't many of them around, were there?
Yeah.
So, you know, feisty woman who knows her own mind. Anyway, I think I was very lucky because I also was doing children's presenting at the time, so I had this strange career where I was doing, people wanted to typecast you in those days, but I wasn't typecastable because they were, well, are you a presenter, are you a singer, are you an actor, are you what are you? And I said, well, I can do all of those things, you know, we can all do all of those things. And I love the children's presenting as well. That's where I really headed off to. But then I did a musical in the West End, you know, and so no, I don't think it does. Although the only part I've played recently has been Ace in The Power of the Doctor. So I mean, I don't know. I haven't had, but that's to do with age and the ages of the industry.
I was going to say,
I haven't had
you'll be playing the old bag ladies like me soon.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, I haven't had a screen test or anything for about 8 years, I think, something like that. Because you just go into this no man's land at a certain age, or at least, I don't know, you haven't so much, have you?
No, dear, no.
But I don't know, it's really funny. But then I'm very happy doing the voice work I do, and I love that.
I think you have to adjust to what is happening in the business, and in your previous jobs obviously influenced people to pick you or not pick you, if you are suitable or not. And I think the more you do and the more variety that you have, the more chances that you have in the business, because it's very,
Yes.
you know, it's very, very competitive.
So being known for the ability to do different stuff is important.
Yes, this is very possible. But as I say, comedy was my big thing. I loved it. And working with Morgan and Wise, and it was just tremendous.
That's marvellous.
They're so good at teaching you comedy as well. I mean,
Oh yeah,
they really like you.
You learn from other actors when you're working with
Absolutely.
them tremendously. Yes.
And those kind of comedy people were just so essential to
Yeah.
learn comedy.
Yes. Yeah.
I've got a book coming out on June 7th, so that's a good
And it's called
Ace Jacket.
Excellent. And it's available from?
All good bookstores. I don't know yet, but I've got some flyers about it.
The publisher is?
Chinbeard Books.
Okay.
Yeah.
Splendid. Good. We should look out for it. Excellent.
SophieAldred.com. Thank you.
Yeah.